everybody, SONGOSHUAKU here! And welcome to today's audio review for WWE Fastlane 2019. But first, make sure to hit that subscribe button followed by hitting the notification bell so that way you are notified as soon as my content is released. Going into this show, I really contemplated not watching it. I thought it was basically going to be a filler show because I didn't really have much expectations for it. But interestingly enough, some of the matches really delivered here, and we're going to go ahead and start breaking these things down. So, I was actually going to check out the pre-show match between Andrade Cien Almas and Rey Mysterio. Personally, I'd rather they save the match for WrestleMania is what I was thinking going in. So as I went back on the pre-show and I'm fast-forwarding and I don't see the match, so I don't know what happened there, and eventually we found out why I guess they weren't in the match, or maybe they did on the pre-show. I just fast forward. I did check out the New Day and the New Day which was Big E, Langston, and man, I'm going old school right now with these, remembering the long versions of the names. But yeah, Big E and Xavier Woods taking on Rusev and Nakamura in a tag team match. Pretty standard stuff here. I would say it was about above average, a little step above than, you know, what you be used to seeing on SmackDown. And it's just kind of sad. It is sad to see what they've done. 1 year ago, Nakamura was on the fast lane to WrestleMania to take on AJ Styles for the WWE Championship, and they even mentioned that on commentary here, and now you look at where he is, and it's like, But the New Day picked up the victory, and the reason Kofi Kingston wasn't there is because the McMahon family had requested him, and this would play a role as we go on throughout the night. But overall, standard stuff, pretty okay match for a pre-show. So let's go ahead and begin off here with the main card. So the first match starting out was for the WWE SmackDown Tag Team Championships. You had The Miz and Shane McMahon against the Usos. So big hometown pop for The Miz, being that this was Cleveland, Ohio, and his hometown. And the match was pretty good. I liked the tag team match. It was intense, back and forth, a lot of great action. Miz was in there, you know, really getting a beat down from the Usos a lot, and Shane was in there. He started off pretty quick with some good jabs and some nice arm drags and everything. And there was a really cool part in the match where Shane McMahon went for the coast to coast, and it ended up hitting. And I think the other Uso on the other side went for a splash as well, and he catches him in midair. And that's cool. I like it because we've seen Shane do the coast to coast so many times in the match, so it's nice to see when they do mix things up a bit. Of course, though, in the end, the Usos end up getting the victory because The Miz, who would do some more aerial stuff that he usually doesn't do, he did a nice frog splash, but his father, Mr. Miz, who, by the way, if you guys don't know, I actually have met The Miz to give the Solid Monster Sounds Off a shout out. It's actually right here on the YouTube channel, so check it out. That was really cool. I saw him at WrestleMania 33, but I digress. Back to the match. So The Miz, basically, he looks at his father who points, go up to the top, go to the top of the rope. So Miz does it. He goes for the frog splash, but then he ends up landing right on the knees. The Uso picks up the victory. The Usos pick up the victory. They retain their championships, and what ends up happening after the match is The Miz and Shane, they go over to hug The Miz's father, and when Miz has his back turned, Shane just nails him in the back. So then we've got our heel turn here from Shane McMahon. You know, a lot of people were speculating, was wondering which way was this gonna go. Were they gonna have Miz turn on Shane, which is what I think most people expected, given The Miz and how well he is as a heel, or were they gonna swerve us and maybe have The Miz's father turn heel and do something hilarious like saying that Shane McMahon's his real son? But no, they're going the babyface route. It's gonna be interesting to see The Miz as the sympathetic babyface. You know, I'm not used to that. So many years of Miz being the heel, but that's the route they're going for. It's been a long time since we've seen Shane as a heel. So at WrestleMania, it will be Miz versus Shane McMahon. Obviously, that's where the story is going. That said, the match should be very interesting because Miz works pretty safely, and Shane, we don't know if he's going to do any crazy bumps and everything, but this is what the storyline's been building towards. So, yeah, I am interested to see where this goes with Shane as the heel. And now our next match would end up being the SmackDown Women's Championship. So you have Asuka defending the women's title against Mandy Rose. Now, I'm happy to see Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville get treated here in a bigger spotlight. I was following those two back on the 2015 version of Tough Enough, so I'm glad to see that they're moving up. However, Mandy Rose wasn't exactly booked like a dominant force, and so, when they did the whole shtick with her being able to fool Asuka and roll her up, I'm like, this is not what I think. I know for sure this is not what we fans that were huge supporters of Asuka wanted. We wanted to see her go on this dominant reign, but obviously they've done this whole thing with their basically ignored Becky Lynch. What she's done to Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch has been treated with a huge focal point for the past couple of months, along with Charlotte and Ronda, and yet Asuka's the one that tapped her out. And I really wanted to see that Charlotte and Asuka rematch for WrestleMania, with Asuka going over this time, but obviously that's not the route they're going. But they finally got her on TV, which was really a shame as well. They kept her off TV, and she beat who arguably was your most popular superstar from a fan crowd reaction standpoint in Becky Lynch. But anyways, the match was standard stuff, I guess you could say. There was a lot of offense got in by Mandy Rose on Asuka, but eventually Asuka makes a comeback. Sonya Deville at the end of the match takes the apron and pulls it up, I guess trying to cheat or whatever for to try and get Mandy Rose the win. What happens is Mandy Rose, she goes in the ropes and she slips off the apron, and when she gets up, Asuka nails her with this boom, this just like boom, like type of kick, right? That's the way I can describe it. If you watch the slow motion, she nailed it right on the jaw or side of face. Yeah, Asuka definitely connected in everything. And Asuka picks up the win and retains the championship. And I guess this is going to lead to a breakup in the team. What is it? Where they're calling Fire Desire for Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. To be honest, it just felt like filler. It just felt like this was placed there to give Asuka something to do. And there's no challengers they have lined up for her. It looks like nobody's been built up to be a huge threat to her for the SmackDown Women's Championship. So that's what WWE has done. They all the time we spent wondering about what are they doing with Asuka in 2018. They put the title on her. They give her two big wins from TLC and Royal Rumble, and now they're just not putting any focus on her. So it's really sad to see that it's come to that even as the champion, we can't get what appears to be a really meaningful storyline for Asuka. Speaking of meaningful storylines, they built all that time up around Mandy Rose and Naomi, and it's just like that's fizzled out. Like that's where the story was with Mandy Rose and Naomi. Did they even have a proper blow off? It's just that whenever they meet paths, they'll go at it and remember that she was trying to break her and her husband up or something like that to get to I guess to try and get one up over Naomi. I don't know if it was used to get her a championship. I don't know. Let's just move on to the next match. An impromptu handicap match, Kofi Kingston versus The Bar. So, as I mentioned earlier in the review, they did this whole storyline on the pre-show where the McMahon family requested Kofi Kingston, and as we would find out, is he was waiting for a whole hour outside the McMahon's locker room, and then eventually they just burst right in there when he's joined by his fellow New Day brethren, and they go in there, and Vince McMahon's like, okay, we're gonna have a triple threat match, and we're gonna have it right now. So he's like, get out there in the ring, and then it's revealed by the ring announcer that no, this is actually a handicap match though, and that's where The Bar came out. And let's be honest, they made short work of Kofi Kofi Kingston. That was the only way this could be booked. Both of them basically destroyed Kofi and beat him quickly, and that's where we are. So, you know, a lot of fans were booing this, but I thought it was great storytelling in terms of keeping Kofi, you know, over. It's really building towards the fans wanting to see Kofi. It looks like they're obviously going this route for WrestleMania. I know I've been a long time Kofi Kingston fan. I think me and the man 0001 talked about this a lot on the Royal Rumble review or the Elimination Chamber review. One of those two. We probably talked about Elimination. I know, shoot, I've been, listen, day one-ish since Kofi Kingston made his debut in ECW. I've been for Kofi Kingston. Elimination Chamber 2009, I remember in high school, me and my buddy were talking about we want Kofi Kingston to win that match to be world champion. So you can go back as far as then that I wanted to see Kofi Kingston to win the championship. I even said it for Money in the Bank last year, and that was on video. But yeah, I've been a Kofi Kingston fan for so long, so I'm okay with the way this was booked and everything. It gets Kofi Kingston more over with the crowd, and we will still have quite a big, huge appearance for a presence, I guess I should say, of Kofi Kingston later on as the night would progress. But let me say this about Kofi Kingston, and that's the way they're portraying him. Often we've seen some of the most successful baby faces have been those who have defied authority, and this whole way they're booking the storyline is Kofi Kingston just waiting politely, like waiting out the door for an hour and everything, knocking, and they won't let him in. Like, I don't know. They're really not. I think they need to portray Kofi Kingston more as a rebel, but that's probably where the storyline could be going. You know, the New Day members have been getting fed up so much. You know, getting fed up. So maybe that's what they're doing. It could be a playoff of what Chris Jericho once said. I know he once talked about. He said that Vince McMahon made a joke or something to him about maybe getting over or something like that, and Kofi Kingston just laughed it off, and then Jericho's like, no, you got to go up there and stand up to him. And maybe that's what they're doing in the storyline, is that they're having Kofi Kingston kind of be like, yeah, I understand it. It's how the business runs. And you have the New Day trying to tell Kofi to go up there and, you know, no, stand up to these guys because you deserve this. You've been busting your butt for 11 years here. And perhaps we're going to finally see Kofi Kingston snap and start taking what is his, just as Becky Lynch. So if the storyline is going that route, then okay, I guess I get it, because that would be the story. Kofi waited 11 years. He's tired of waiting. Now he's taking it. All right, that said, we'll move on to the next match. So the Triple Threat Raw Tag Team Championship match. The champions, the Revival, taking on Rude and Gable and the newly called up NXT recruits, Ricochet and Aleister Black. This whole NXT call-up thing was quite random, you know. They just put them right out there. But I guess they were desperate to shake things up even before WrestleMania. Still, it's been cool to see these guys get the spots on the main roster. I think this was reserved for DIY, but unfortunately, Tommaso Ciampa has been injured has a neck injury, got the surgery, and is going to be out for a long time. I don't know, I forget this dates, but it's going to be long. I think over a year, possibly. So I guess my understanding is that's why Ricochet and Aleister Black have been put together as a makeshift team, I guess, just to try and fill the void there. But hey, I like their athletic ability together, because it's really cool when they do the spots where they both go into the ropes and then they do backflips into their signature poses. That's really cool. But the match itself was pretty good. There are two parts that stand out to me. One is thumbs up, the others as a very scary thumbs down. So there was the part Black does the double knees, and then Chad Gable knocks Ricochet off. Chad Gable does a really cool German suplex to Black, followed by, I forget which one it was, of the Revival, who came in with a splash, and then afterwards Ricochet does the shooting star press from the top. It was great. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but yeah, it was a crazy sequence. That was really awesome. But not so awesome was the next big spot where I guess Dawson was on the top. Yeah, he's on the top of the rope, and Ricochet goes for like a Hurricane Rana, and the idea, I believe, of the spot was for him to go flying into the other superstars on the outside. Well, it didn't end up that way. Ricochet ended up looking like he dang near fell on his head on the apron, with Dawson's lower back looked like it cracked onto the apron, the edge of the apron, and then they went into the rest of the wrestlers outside the ring. Yeah, it looked like a nasty spot, and dang near could have been ended very, very badly for them. You could tell it was a botch because they did not even show it on the replay, and I was hoping they were going to show it because I really wanted to look at that in slow motion, so I had to go back when it was available on demand and take a look at it, and just wow. Yeah, I'm glad everyone ended up okay. But in the end, the Revival ended up picking up the win, as I figured they would, and definitely should after you had them lose. Just more of that backwards booking that WWE does, where you'll have a superstar that really needs the win. Just like I said with Becky and Asuka. Becky right now is so popular, you can't really have her lose. But then at the same time, Asuka just got all her momentum back by winning the championship, so you can't have her lose. And WWE just keeps doing this. They do it all the time. Like the NXT guys shouldn't be losing. The Rival just got their championships. They shouldn't be losing. And then you just, that's one of the things that I think that a lot of fans have not gotten, the reason they haven't gotten invested into characters. You know, the best time I think to do matches like these are when both superstars have been built up properly and one can afford to lose. The Revival need all the wins they can get now. And the NXT stars needs all the wins they can get right now. Now's not the time. Let the Revival get built up as a dominant tag team champions, and then have them lose to the new NXT guys who have been winning their share of matches. But at the end of the day, WWE is a multi-billion-dollar company that has even more guaranteed billions on the way, so it's not going to harm them as a business doing that type of booking. But I do feel that it is a reason why many fans have lost interest in certain characters on the product, because they feel like they can't get behind it, because one minute they get momentum and then they're down, and this person gets momentum and it's just this booking. But moving on to the next match, we had another impromptu match, this time for the WWE United States Championship, as Samoa Joe defend the title against R-Truth, Rey Mysterio, and Andrade, now no longer known as Cien Almas to the rest of his name. But yeah, man, these four have been tearing it up on SmackDown the past several weeks, and they did the exact same thing here. Too many spots to really recall in this match, but I will say that I did like that Andrade and Mysterio continue telling their story within the story of the Fatal 4-Way. So I really like that nice attention to detail. Because I really like to see these two go at it at WrestleMania one-on-one. I think they've had some excellent WrestleMania matches on SmackDown. Wish they would have had saved it for SmackDown, but it is what it is there. But yeah, Mysterio's flying all over the place, going from one person to Hurricane Rana, this person, and doing spinning DDTs on this person. Like, man, there were a lot of cool spots and everything you had from that standpoint. But in the end, when Rey Mysterio goes for the 619, oh yeah, you even had R-Truth break out the 5-knuckle shuffle, and the fans went along with it just like John Cena does. But in the end, Mysterio went for the 619, but got caught into the coquina clutch by Samoa Joe, and I think I forgot if he tapped out or just got put to sleep. I forgot, but yeah, anyway, Samoa Joe retains the championship, and I really hope this is the start of a monstrous run with the U.S. title for Samoa Joe. I think it will up the whatever prestige is left at this point, because honestly, if you're not John Cena, WWE really hasn't put a big emphasis on the United States Championship. So hopefully Joe can do that. But given how they book things, you know, Joe might not even end up on TV as they get closer for WrestleMania, because we'll hear stories that he's not the focus. So yeah, I would love to see Joe go on a monstrous reign with the United States Championship and just like defeat all comers, and maybe eventually this can lead to him getting at least one WWE Championship before Samoa Joe calls it a career. So now moving on to the next match, the women's tag team title match. Sasha Banks and Bayley as the Boston Hug Connection taking on Tamina and Nia Jax. So this match obviously was going to be with the revival of the tag team, the women's Raw Tag Team Champions. So shout out to all the women that worked hard for this back in the 80s, back when they had the original women's championship. However, in terms of this match, it's what you would expect. The smaller women basically using their speed and the bigger women using their power. But in the end, Bayley ends up getting the roll up on, I believe, Nia Jax. And then after that, Nia Jax and Tamina just completely go berserk on the Boston Hug Connection, even so much as throwing Sasha completely over the announce table, landing to where the seats are usually are at. So it was definitely a great looking spot there. And Beth Phoenix, I guess, is trying to check on them, and that's where she gets face to face with Tamina. So this is a callback to, man, when was that pay-per-view? Was it like was it Elimination Chamber 2012? I think it was. It was the February. Yeah, I think it was Elimination Chamber 2012 that they wrestled before WrestleMania 28. I think I could be wrong, but I remember Tamina and Beth Phoenix did have a match against each other at the time. So a little bit of callback history there for you. And then that said, Nia Jax, who she had history with from the last year's first ever Women's Royal Rumble, they both basically jumped her. So it was cool to see Beth Phoenix getting back into the fray of things. You know, for those who are not aware, Beth Phoenix is one of my all-time favorite women's wrestlers. I was there in attendance live on two of the most important nights in her career. No Mercy 2007, when she first won the women's championship, and then again 10 years later at the Hall of Fame in 2017 when she was inducted. So I was very glad to see it. And unfortunately, I've never met Beth Phoenix, but I was glad I was able to see those two moments for her in person. So yeah, one of my all-time favorite women's wrestlers. So I'm really happy to see if this is going to be a little comeback for her. And we had Natalya come out and try to help defend Beth Phoenix, and so a little reunion of the Divas of Doom. So while I was hoping for a Bayley and Sasha versus Trish and Lita Dream match, it looks like they're going to be setting up what looks to be a triple threat women's tag team championship match for WrestleMania. Tamina and Nia Jax versus the reunited Divas of Doom versus the Boston Hug Connection. Hey, maybe Trish and Lita get added and you have a fatal four-way turmoil tag team match for the Raw Women's Championship. So yeah, but overall, this is a pretty cool angle. Hey, I'm excited to see Beth Phoenix getting back in the ring. Like I said, she's one of my all-time favorite women's wrestlers. So now we move on to the WWE Championship match, which also ended up being an impromptu match because originally this was supposed to be Daniel Bryan versus Kevin Owens, but impromptly added was Mustafa Ali, though it was teased it would be Kofi Kingston. And man, this was Rey Mysterio Royal Rumble 2014 all over again. The boos came in raining, but this once again showed how over Kofi Kingston was. So this is one of those deals where you kind of think the fans are gonna, it seemed like the fans were trying to crap all over the match, just like they did at the 2014 Royal Rumble when the superstar that they love didn't come out. However, much props. I gotta give props to these three competitors in the ring: Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens, and Mustafa Ali, because when you think about that on paper, these are three of the most talented in-ring performers you've got in the business today. And these three, their performance, the three of them, their performances was so great that the crowd basically forgot about booing and really got into the match toward the end. There were even moments where Ali would do these spectacular moves and they'd be like, yeah, and then you hear a few people in the crowd try to start up the Kofi chants, and then they just ended up going right back to cheering because the match was really awesome. Man, there was, once again, this is a lot of spots in this match, and too much stuff to really call and everything. But yeah, you had, you know, the 054 being hit, Owens doing the pop-up power bomb. I mean, outside the ring, he even had a DDT to Daniel Bryan, and there's a part where Kevin Owens, first Mustafa Ali tries to jump onto Kevin Owens, but Kevin Owens catches him and reverses it into the apron power bomb. Looked really cool. Oh, there was a part where Daniel Bryan was on the outside of the ring, on the apron that is, and Mustafa Ali hit a 450 splash onto the side of the apron. That was sick. Yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed the match, but eventually Rowan got interfered and took out Kevin Owens, and I think Mustafa Ali may have taken out Rowan from there, and it came down to Daniel Bryan and Ali. They were trading blows back and forth, and I love the finish of the match. So Ali goes to the top of the rope, tries to springboard and jump off the top of the rope to Daniel Bryan, but in midair, Daniel Bryan nails the flying knee for the 1, 2, 3 and retain the WWE Championship. This match to me was probably my match of the night. I was not expecting this. You get so caught up in the Kofi Kingston storyline that they're doing right now. Don't let it be forgotten that these are 3 talented in-ring performers, and I think Mustafa Ali reminded everyone tonight, for those that were booing, that yeah, how good this guy really is. Hey, he's actually from our native land of Chicago, so it's really cool to see someone, you know, from your hometown, basically succeeding there in WWE. Always cool, you know. That being said, though, definitely I think this is one of the matches, if you go watch the pay-per-view, definitely worth checking out. It was an excellent triple threat match, and like I said, I just really applaud the tremendous efforts shown by Daniel Bryan, Ali, and Owens to put on such a great performance that the crowd is booing, and then by the end they're cheering it and everything. You just see how awesome of the match. They did not let the crowd get to them, and they went out there and put on a really good main event for the WWE Championship. But from here, it looks like the storyline is going to go with a one-on-one WWE Championship match between Kofi Kingston and Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 35. And don't get me wrong, it would have been really nice for Kofi Kingston to get a proper build-up before getting into the championship match. Like, think about Mark Henry. They built him up over a several-month period time of destruction, all the way up to him getting the world championship against Randy Orton. That by the time he got it, it's like, oh man, yeah, they built this guy up. He went through all the, you know, the low card to the mid card to then the main event, right? It would have been nice for Kofi to have gotten that big build up, as opposed to just being, you know, a term they use for Charlotte a lot, shoehorn in here, because Mustafa Ali was injured at the time. But honestly, I think a lot, if you're one of those fans who've been following Kofi Kingston since day one-ish, and you've seen how they treated him, it's to the point just like it was with Bray Wyatt. Yeah, he hasn't been built up properly in the storyline, but you respect the amount of work and effort he's put into the company, that you're like, if this is the only way he'll finally get a championship, let's just do it. It's sad that WWE books it like that when you do get someone who is deserving to be a champion, you know, because of the work and effort they put in, WWE didn't book them like that. So it's like fans are into more so the effort that was put into by the performer, as opposed to not just the effort from the performer, but also the way they were booked in the storyline. It's all screwed up the way things have booked. But yeah, this might be the only way for Kofi Kingston to finally get that one WWE Championship. And I'm not so convinced that they will put the title on him at WrestleMania. But man, it would make for an amazing moment, because I know, like I said, I've been a Kofi Kingston fan since day one-ish, and that's something I definitely would like to see for WrestleMania 35. Now we move on to Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair. Now, if you all remember my Evolution pay-per-view review, I said that I thought this was the perfect blow-off, because I don't know, I'm fine if we never get or at least we don't get a Charlotte and Becky Lynch match after this for many years to come, because to me, what's going to top that, right? And that's why I was so excited that they added Asuka as a triple threat match, because I was like, there's no way that can be topped. But here we are, another pay-per-view where they are main eventing, and this time I wasn't really all that excited for this match, because I just knew, all right, Becky Lynch, for storyline purposes, is going to have to sell the leg injury, so this is not going to be a spectacular match like we've been used to out of these women, and that's pretty much what it was, Charlotte working the leg. And I personally thought the match didn't have to go on as long as it did. I mean, it wasn't the longest match on the card, but it's like, we knew where this was going, and certainly enough, eventually after Charlotte taunting and basically working the leg on Becky over in the match. Out comes Ronda Rousey with one punch and to Becky Lynch while she was in the figure 4 leg lock, and the referee goes for the disqualification. Becky Lynch wins, and now we are where we knew the company wanted to go from the start, a triple threat match for Charlotte versus Becky versus Ronda. I will say it's cool that they've turned Ronda Rousey heel. I've been all weekend just finding it so hilarious. These Ronda breaking kayfabe memes have been absolutely hilarious online. I did see Ronda Rousey's shoot promo, you could say worked shoot promo, that she did in her bus and everything, to try and really get under the fans' skin and everything. So if there is anyone out there that actually thinks that Ronda's shooting, it's a work, you guys know, just like CM Punk back in 2011, it's a worked. I particularly aren't too key in, all for when they, start throwing around words like script and the word fake and everything, for the storylines and stuff like that. But that is what it is. But yeah, overall, we've reached the point where we thought, and this storyline to me, honestly, it seems like so convoluted. They did so much more than they really had to. Honestly, they could have kept it to where it was on the Twitter. Most of the Twitter back and forths that Ronda and Becky have had, just use that as their promos and everything, and even shoot vignettes of what their training is like for this match. Just keep it simple like that. I didn't think it was all needed. There were things that just didn't make sense. Like, why before was it okay for Becky to have her leg, okay, first when you think she might have a leg injury, she can't compete. Then when she does have a leg injury in storyline, she can compete, but here sign this agreement that we can't be held responsible. So it's like, whatever. Hopefully, though, as we go into this WrestleMania match, I hope that Becky, they have a good storyline explanation for Becky Lynch to get all healed up, because to see these three women go all out in the main event, this is, especially if it's going to be the first ever women's WrestleMania main event. I want to see all three of those women, be able to tear the house down, and therefore, you can't have Becky Lynch selling a knee. They focused on the knee so much for the past 2 months. How could it be possibly healed, almost a month from now? You just wonder. It's 27 days from now at the time this is being recorded. So yeah, I didn't really focus much on the match, more of the storyline, because let's face it, the match was what it was. It was just to get us from point A to point B. And I would have actually preferred Becky versus Ronda one-on-one as the main event for WrestleMania 35, but the WWE wants Charlotte to be part of the history books as one of the women to have main event WrestleMania in the first ever one, so that is what it is there. I also should mention that Elias All Night was doing segments where he ended up basically bashing the crowd, the typical stuff, for the crowd. He'd bash their, their sports teams and whatnot, but eventually it concluded with Randy Orton coming out of nowhere with the RKO, and then after that, AJ Styles comes out of nowhere with the phenomenal forearm. So it looks like we're definitely getting that Randy Orton AJ Styles match for WrestleMania 35, which I think it's finally I'm glad to see, because they never had a proper match. They've only had a couple of matches on SmackDown, so this is kind of like their really first big match. Now, we move on to the main event. The Shield reunited back. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose versus Drew McIntyre, Baron Corbin, and Bobby Lashley. So, one of the things that has been always tremendous about the Shield is that consistently for the past 6+ years, they have put on tremendous 6-man tag team matches, and this match here was no exception. You had everybody shine, everybody did their great moments, their big spots, and of course, eventually in the end, it goes into all-out chaos. There was a lot of near falls, and I thought you had a lot of back and forth moments where Baron Corbin was taking some of Roman Reigns' best shots, and Baron Corbin kept kicking out of it. But yeah, it was just all over the place, and you had those strategies, you know, where the Shield likes to try and break down every member of their opposing team until it just comes down to the Hounds of Justice doing their big epic moment, doing their, you know, it leads to the final Shield bomb and everything. And you know, you had that here. You had eventually they took out Bobby Lashley with I think was it well, actually even before, there was a cool moment where they were in the crowd, McIntyre and Lashley against Seth and Dean, and there was a part where they were fighting near the set they have up for the pre-show, and Seth Rollins, basically, while Dean Ambrose is basically being held up by McIntyre and Lashley, Seth Rollins comes out of nowhere, basically comes from like one of the upper decks or whatever, or wherever platform he was standing on, near where the audience is sitting, and jumps off there, and it looked nasty. It looked like his legs went right into Lashley's face. The camera angle looked great, and you always get those big moments where Seth dives off of somewhere, and everything, as Michael Cole would say, vintage Seth Rollins, right? You had Dean Ambrose, and everything. They pull the match back into the ringside area, and there was a cool part where Seth Rollins ends up nailing the on the announce table, because they were going to try and pick apart the Shield again, and Seth Rollins does the curve stomp right on the Lashley onto the announce table, and that takes Lashley out for the rest of the match. And then they're able to get a hold of they're able to get a hold of Drew McIntyre, because he was going to try, and he was initiating, you know, the Shield bomb to, I forget, was it to Ambrose or Roman? I don't remember off the top of my head, but eventually the Shield gets to Drew McIntyre and lays him out with the Shield bomb, and now all that's left in the ring is Baron Corbin, who realizes at this moment, yep, he's about to get jumped by the Shield, and that's what they do. They like the mentality. They break them down. You know, like I said, they always break off their teams until there's just one left, and it of course ends with the Shield bomb. 1, 2, 3. The Shield stand tall. Now they're saying this is the last time ever, and there's a lot of fans who are kind of up. It's up in the air. They don't know for sure if Dean Ambrose is leaving or resign, because they've been so public about it, even on their own show, and that's something WWE doesn't usually doesn't do. Now, when it comes to me, words like last time ever or one time only, you know, things like that, I don't really take too serious when WWE says that, because look at like The Rock and Cena. They promoted that as the only time ever, and granted, what happened the next year? They're back in the main event wrestling again. Or think about The Undertaker and Triple H most recently. They said it was the end of an era, and then several years later, just last year, there they are wrestling not once but twice, and you know, and with the teams added to it, of course. So it's like, yeah, I doubt this is the last time we'll ever see the Shield, but it was a tremendous main event for all six competitors. Hats off to them, and like I said, I think the Shield have done a tremendous job. These 6-man tag team matches pretty much have never disappointed. They're like NXT shows. Some are going to be better than others. Some will be okay. Some will be great, but I can't say I have ever seen a bad 6-man match involving the Shield. So that being said, it was definitely a nice moment, because if Dean Ambrose is legitimately going away, it was great to see this for what I believe is not the last time, but for a good while. And I also want to add that I thought Roman Reigns looked great in the ring tonight. I am so glad for both him and his family, and fans as well, that Roman Reigns has overcame leukemia for the second time. It's in remission, so that is amazing. So I'm glad to see that, and hopefully Roman Reigns doesn't have to deal with that ever again. I really, truly hope he doesn't. It's a terrible thing, and nothing I would ever wish on anybody. So much props to Roman Reigns, definitely being an inspiration there. And that concludes my Fastlane 2019 review. I will be back with a review for WrestleMania 35. Until then, here are my plugs. So, if you obviously are a fan of WWE or professional wrestling, we'll be doing more audio reviews like this for big events that you can listen to as you go about your everyday life. Also, if you're a fan of Dragon Ball, shonen manga, or anime adapted from shonen manga, make sure to check out my upcoming short film, Battle of Deception, as it's based on those types of genres. I currently have lots of videos such as the teaser trailer and the behind-the-scene interview videos right here on my channel, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified as soon as I release more content regarding Battle of Deception, Dragon Ball, My Hero Academia, and even WWE. And make sure to like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter and Instagram, both at SONGOSHUAKU. All links will be in the description below. Take care!